Welcome to TALRadio. We are now going to listen to Mentor Loop, a career guidance from Roopa Sunku, Chief Evangelist at TAL Career Help. In this week's episode, you would be listening why networking is so crucial for a successful career. Our mentor would also walk you through some tried and tested methods to build networking.
Hello, everyone. My name is Roopa Sunku, and I am the Chief Evangelist at Career Help with Touch a Life Foundation. Very excited to have you listen to me on my third episode of Mentor Loop. Today's topic is going to be career goals. Most often, people go into a career journey and stay in a corporation on an average of 4 years at a particular company. So what does that equate to? Traversed to 20-odd organizations through your career. I have spent almost 24 years at Oracle and have had multitude of roles, profiles, and business units that I have been associated with. The one piece that has stuck with me is that I am a technical program manager and a support services executive, holding the same core values, seated with operations, planning, and people management as my core strengths. So my career is in the tech industry. Each person, as they get into the workforce, traverse a number of stages or their career paths through the journey that they begin with graduating out of school, entering a job, being adventurous in trying to figure out and discover the various opportunities that can be availed by them. Once you have gotten into a company and have set foot on a particular path to your journey, you can then move around in various business units that may perk your interest and also be able to go in from an individual contributor to a lead, or you may make some career pivots from moving from finance to HR or HR to technology engineering to QA. In the tech industry, that is what you will be able to move into, or you can go into marketing or into sales or into consulting. There are many avenues to be able to broaden the holistic view of your career itself. You can then move into a manager position, managing people, working with a team of people, and leaving aside the individual contributor roles that you may have played. You can move into mid-management leadership or senior leadership. Each one of those are pivots to your career, and your career goals will be defined and manicured based on which part of your journey you're embarking on. And what is the next journey or the map on which you're landing to be able to grow into the next level. So often enough, people may wonder, is corporate loyalty the thing of the past? And it appears that way in the current hybrid employment models around the globe. People do not stay with a job for a longer span as compared to the past, where people had maybe 1 to 2 corporations under their belt. As I mentioned earlier, the stats show that there is an average of 4 years that a person may spend in an organization, spanning to 20 organizations in a lifetime. So do we call ourselves freelancers? I guess so. So kind of moving on to trying to define what career is. A career means it is the education that you bring along with the skills that you have acquired to be able to do or complete a job. You need to have a vision to be able to achieve that career goal, platform, or career avenues to be discovered. You need to have interest in that area to be able to continue to work and enjoy working in that career profile. It obviously has to stick and be affiliated to your core values. And obviously, you need goals in order for all of these aspects of a career to mesh together to be able to take you to that next step you want to achieve. So what are some of the career goals that you will be faced with, or are examples of career goals that you may have for yourself? Assume career is like a point in the map, and you have the entire globe or the world to be able to plot yourself through. So if you are at a particular juncture in a particular spot, you need to be able to figure out how you get to the next spot or that desired spot or place on the map of your career journey. The other piece of career that you want to consider making your career goals or defining your career goals is to be able to look at a combination of your personal goals and that of the corporate or the career goals that you have in mind. Because let's say you have just been married and you want to focus on spending time to get to know your spouse and be able to set up home. And so your activity on your work is pretty nominal. And that is probably another avenue to kind of think about, or time in your life to think about, where you determine what is more important than the other, or are you able to sail the boat with both aspects of your personal life and your professional life? There could be a situation where you want to achieve some intended goals. Somebody who's come in and said, oh, I have been working in this company for almost 4 years. I have done the same level of coding and the same kind of coding for the last 4 years. I want to do something different. So that could initiate or make you think about a career goal. There is also the career vision and exploration that you are often embarking on that will give you avenues or paths to kind of consider and choose from. You also may have career conversations with peers, with your managers, within your network, and decide that there is an ideal job that you have discovered and want to set yourself up for success with career goals. Then the other actual activity that can happen is that you have stayed in a particular position and you've plateaued out. The pastures look greener on the other side, or you want to do something different because you've done this for a very long period of time and you're not seeing that satisfaction, that excitement going back to your job. So often enough, career and job is very closely associated and linked. So let's talk about these various examples that I have taken that initiates a need for you to go ahead and set up some goals for yourself. So how do you set career goals? So you need to look at whether it is professional improvement or advancement that you're looking for, or are you looking for a balance within your career and your job with personal and family and work going in sync? Or is your personal goals more important to you than the professional goals? And is it time for you to just step back and say, I'd like to think about what kind of work do I want to do? So somebody may decide that I have kids at home and I want to be off while the kids are off. So you may consider taking on a teaching profession instead of pursuing the engineering degree of a computer science that you have done and you have been coding all this while before the children came into your life. So any such thing will kind of give you a goal to map to. So let's take, for example, somebody is coming in as an individual contributor into the tech industry and is doing coding. They want to become a lead or an architect within that same group that they're working with. The first thing that they need to make sure they have an understanding of is the coding skills, right? So the technical coding skills or the hard skills that they require to do the job, be it acquired through certification or additional classes or any practical hands-on training that they can do and get to within their own profession. They also need certain amount of soft skills when it comes to professional advancement to a lead level. So they need to consider that as well. So those would all be the different entities in your career goals and what you want to achieve to be mapped and to be put down as short-term goals or long-term goals. So let's take another example of a work-life balance. So we have a program manager or a project manager in a corporation who is spending a lot of time with her children in a school. And she also needs to make sure that they are involved with all of the extracurricular activities and are grown up enough to be able to be independent. So at that point in time, she feels that she should stay status quo and do a really, really good job in the current position she has. And she is not aspiring to take on multitude of other opportunities that may be available to her, or to be able to take on manager position that was probably her career dream. So those are the decision points that you make, and decide what is it that you want to pursue as goals for your next step in that career journey, or that map that you are plotting to be able to determine and traverse the career path overall. So once you have determined what are the goals and what do you want to set for yourself during that span of time or that period in question, then you make sure that you have a few goals that are set up for short-term success. So let's say something like the coder who wants to become a lead architect is needing certifications. So that would be a short-term goal. Something like soft skills is something that they have to also consider as a short-term, but maybe something on the horizon of moving into management and leadership, and consider that to be a long-term goal, which is starting off as a short-term goal. So once you have identified where you are, what you want to do, and what is it that you want to focus on, you create your short-term goals and also your long-term goals. Normally, people think about short-term goals as something that they are doing 1 to 3 years of time period. For me personally, I like to look at smaller chunks. So I normally give myself a 3 to 6 month goal, which I consider a short term. And I consider 3 years to be a long term goal. Though in industry standards, I think a 3 to 5 year goal is normally considered a long term goal, keeping in mind that people change jobs once in 4 years or so on an average. So this becomes a nice chunk to look at 1 to 3 as the short term and 3 to 5 as your long term goals. So what is it that you need to think about when you're setting up your career goals? Have you thought about where you are, what you have achieved, and where do you want to be in the 3 to 5 year span that we've talked about? Write it down, reflect and write it down so that you can understand where you are and where you want to go. Then socialize this with colleagues, family, to kind of almost get a gut check whether this is ringing true to the people who know you fairly well in the work environment as well as at your home front. And if you are a planner, you may want to put timelines and deadlines and milestones through this entire goal activity. But if you're not a planner, then force yourself to give at least minimalistic structure so that you know where you are and where you want to be, and give the lapse of time to be free form so that you can figure out how it goes as it develops through the goals. The other piece that you always have to keep in mind is give it time for exceptions or unforeseen situations coming into the mix. It could be that there is a merger acquisition and the company structure has changed entirely. And that could obviously impede or hinder your career goals, especially your short-term goals, if it meant you were associating those goals to a certain structure or activities that you see today as part of your portfolio within your job. Don't take risky moves, and keep in account all your pros and cons, especially with the changed trajectories of success within a career itself. Okay, so make sure you have reflected thought about it, write it down, socialize it, make sure you get that gut check, and anticipate or plan for exceptions or change of path. When you go ahead and get that done, you now have your career plan in place. You now have to develop your plan, putting in more specifics around the high level activities that you pinned yourself down to. Add in an implementation plan as to how you're going to go ahead and achieve that. So let's say you are saying, I want to be certified ITIL before I move into the next step of my career plan. And you need to then discover and work on finding out who are the providers of this ITIL training. And then you would go ahead and make sure you register, pass it, and then have that certification under your belt so that you can go ahead and apply for that change to a lead or an architect position. Once you have developed your plan, and you have also put in all of the pieces to implement it, you need to also develop your own personal development plan in that. So if you have now gotten that certification, you need to plan it and say, okay, I have the certification. Am I ready for that architect role? Am I able to do that now? And am I ready to go ahead and pursue that role? So that would be your own personal development plan that you will do with a check of time with the certification that was your goal to have completed. The next thing that is super important, as I mentioned, socialize your career goals. So it's also important to go ahead and get yourself a mentor. A mentor gives you the opportunity to assess where you are. And if you are looking at things with a particular focus, they will be able to give you different perspectives to your career goals as well, right? So there are 3 models that I want to kind of share with you on almost like a checklist of things that you need to do once you have identified your career goals and timed it to be either short-term or long-term. So you do a career assessment, determine where you are. Does it need any kind of an educational qualifications to be increased? Find what makes you passionate about this particular job. Develop that passion in yourself. And then these goals will become a lot simpler for you to be able to manifest into your personal development plan. Join professional associations so that you can hear people talk about the various avenues, various opportunities, and various paths that they have consumed or taken on to be able to get that level or that particular career goal that you want or you have established for yourself. Always be a good employee through all of this. Be a good leader and listen to your leaders or communicate with your leaders to be able to understand where you are in the grand schema of things. Be an expert in something, but become an authority in what you want to pursue. And maybe you choose to be your own boss and you will initiate own corporation as a career goal for yourself. Okay, so that would be one approach to take or a checklist to kind of work through. The other checklist is a little bit more simplistic for people who like to look at things with numbers and black and white in a lot of ways. So know your scope and make sure that the goals are within that scope that you want to pursue. Validate your goals and remove anything that would make you quit upfront. Make sure you remove those hurdles and anticipate some and plan for some so that you can validate those goals against those. Be able to use some known, tested, proven, tried ways of prioritizing your goals as well. So within a list of 10 goals that you make 5 short-term and 5 long-term, and then prioritize those goals internally. Your short-term goals would go 1 through 5, and then 6 through 10 for your long-term goals. You should be flexible to be able to move things around. Try to keep it within your short-term goals and long-term goals separated. Also, know how to put plans in place for yourself, because you know who you are and what reality is and what kind of environment you are in. And so plan yourself so that you can feel successful with whatever you do. Now, going on to a third model of looking at all of these things. Make it smarter goals, or what they call as SMART goals. And I'll go into a little bit more detail in a minute. But meanwhile, that would be the first on your checklist. Make sure that the goals that you're setting for yourself are smarter. Then write it down. It's so important to write it down, because what is going on in your reflective brain may not be translated into goals unless you write it down and even probably pin it up for you to be able to pursue those goals, and make sure that it is a constant reminder that you have those goals. Otherwise, procrastination can come in the way, or excuses may come in the way for you not to be able to get those done. Break it down. Like I said, break down your short-term goals into maybe 5 items and 5 items for the long term, and keep it broken down into consumable, breakable, quantifiable means for you to feel achieved. And a couple of successes will make you more energized to be able to go through the rest of your goals. Hold yourself accountable. This is super important. This is for you. This is what you want, and make sure you keep yourself accountable to that. Reward yourself when you have achieved a couple of pieces of your career goal, and pat yourself on the back, because that is definitely useful to be able to go forward. And lastly, develop a system and make it a habit. And that is super important, is live it, learn it, and deliver it, right? So kind of going into what we've called as the smarter or SMART goals. S stands for specific. So make sure that your goals are very specific, narrow, and are effective for planning and execution. M stands for measurable. Define what that goal is, and what are you trying to prove, and what is progress look like, and do you need to reevaluate that particular goal and its various dimensions. So measurable for M. Next one is attainable. So make sure that these are easier to accomplish, at least on the first few, so that you feel confident to be able to move along that journey of your career goals. Make sure that it is relevant, R for relevant. Your goal should align with your personal values and your short-term and long-term objectives. So don't forget who you are and what you stand for, and your strengths and your skills. That will all go together, making your goals relevant. And lastly, make it time-based. As I talked to you earlier, different parts of your career journey calls for different activities and goals. So make sure that those are realistic to the time-based prioritization that you've done and the motivations that you've got in your own career at that point in time. So once again, SMART stands for S being specific on your goals, M being measurable, A being attainable, R being relevant, and T being time-based. So all of this is good. You've got your plan in place. You've understood your goals. You've written it down. You are making sure that it's attainable, executable, and accomplishable. Now that you have set those goals, make a plan, your personal development plan, to get that done. Get to work on it, start working on it, and make it stick. Make every step matter, every priority be at utmost diligence from your end. And if you stick to it, you will definitely reach the goal. And that is when you will feel accomplished with what you have done and all of the time that you have spent putting it down on paper to be able to achieve it and move to that next step on your career. So some of the tips that I'd like to give you from my own learnings over the years is that a resume is super, super critical. And most of us don't keep up our resumes with all of our current responsibilities and roles. So make sure that you have at least at minimum a yearly resume review. Okay. Also, there was the concept of searching and looking for jobs need not be when you need that change. When you have that horrible manager that you can't work for and want to go out and look for a job, or there is a possible merger acquisition that may have a layoff impact within your corporation. So don't wait for that. Keep a hot check on what kind of jobs are out there. Are you and your skills being outdated, or are you staying current with all of the activity and the know-how that's going on in the industry? Keep a watch on the marketplace for trend changes. Now, people who are looking for work from home may now be able to do that very easily with the hybrid model in place with majority of the corporations. There are jobs that cannot be done from home, and it has to be done by going to the location of work. And that obviously make you think about what else you can consider within your career path to be able to meet those marketplace changes and trends. Don't wait for an event to occur and start looking for a job. So what I mean by that is, if you have a job on hand, you interview much better. You're able to think broader. You're able to make those decisions and negotiate your next career path. So don't wait for something unfounded that is actually going to have a fiscal impact on you and make you pick up a job in duress with whatever opportunity came about in front of you. So make sure you anticipate that. And there is no harm in looking out for what other opportunities there are if you're working in a particular organization, as long as there is no conflict of interest in that space. Don't procrastinate. Don't let goals slip. Make sure that you tie your goals to the accolades that you give yourself or the pat on the shoulder with something more meaningful, so that you feel achieved and energized to be able to complete and finish off your career goals. Also, think about some of the minimal completions that should be done. Even if you don't get the gamut of the entire goal that you've written down for yourself completed, get small portions or a minimum viable portion of that plan to be executed. Also, keep in mind, you don't have to be a jack of all trades. You could pick up niche and mastery over certain focused areas to be able to make that career goal happen for you. There are roles and positions that need more of a holistic approach rather than niche specialty or mastery over some skills and activities. Lastly, as you can see, as you grow up the corporate ladder in terms of positions within the organization leading to leadership, we are a pyramid. So the higher you go, the thinner it gets in terms of the people that are plotted at the top of the pyramid. So make sure you know everything and keep true to your values and your strength, and choose those positions that will make you happy and successful as well. Okay. So Dory Clark, a professor from Duke University who writes a lot of HBR or the Harvard Business Review, says, turn your goals to habit, and that automatically builds and becomes part of your lives. So remember that. Turn your goals into habits, make that automatic, and become the build for your life overall. The last thing I want to leave you with, when you complete your goals and feel accomplished, remember your journey never ends. You need to be the best at whatever you do and whoever you want to be. There is always another layer or level that you want to promote yourself to or position yourself for in the future. And the trick to being the best at whatever you do and whatever you want to pursue is the word trick. Trick stands for T as in trust. Trust your instincts, trust in your planning, trust in your reflections, and be able to set your path to the next level. R in the word trick stands for respect. Respect the people in and around you. Work with them, build your own respect, and that trust along with respect will give you a lot of possibilities opening up to do whatever you do. Now, moving into the word trick with the letter I. This is a loaded word or a letter. It gives you the independence, it gives you inclusion, it gives you incorporation, and it also allows you to innovate. So I is the center word or the middle word, which is super powerful as long as you can imbibe some of these values associated to the letter I. The next letter, which is C as in trick, C is collaboration. Collaboration and networking go hand in hand in whatever you do and whoever you want to be. So make sure to collaborate, hear from people, look at people, observe people, do things that other people do, but do it better than all the other people around you. And lastly, don't forget your authentic self and kindness. Kindness to yourself, kindness to people around you, and kindness to your family, making sure that you keep the career journey as exciting and as hopeful as you can ever make it. So remember the word trick. T for trust, R for respect, I for independence, inclusion, incorporated innovation, C for collaboration, and K for kindness. With that, I'll leave you to think about what are the career goals you want to write for yourself. And if you ever want to talk to a mentor, please reach out to Touch a Life Foundation, and we are here to help you. And you can go ahead and register going into touchalife.org/career help, or you could reach out to me, Roopa, ROOPA, at touchalife.org. Thank you so much for listening in, and hope you have found this beneficial, and looking forward to hearing from you if you want to discuss anything further on career goals and how your career journey has been over the span of the next 5 years is what I would love to hear from you on. Thank you, folks.
You have just listened to The Need and Skill of Building Networks by Roopa Sunku, Chief Evangelist at TAL Career Help. Stay tuned to TAL Radio for many more interesting programs.